What is happening, everyone? Welcome to GBALL Vision. Today we are taking a look at every CJRB button lock that has been released up into recording this video. Now I know there are a couple that are in the works and coming out very soon. One of them is the mini pyrite, but as of recording this video, that has not been released yet. So the first button lock that CJRB did was the Feldspar button lock, White Mountain Knives exclusive with the RPM 9, the black micarta. Now there was a couple variations of this released with White Mountain Knives, and I found that this was my favorite one out of the group. Now a lot of people, or at least a few people, were not that happy with the Feldspar button lock, and I don't know if it was just a select few that were not up to, the QC standards of what this one is, but I have talked to other people and they are in agreement that the Feldspar button lock in this configuration is just built like a tank. And this was the start of CJRB and their button lock experience, and boy, was this a welcome surprise coming in. They do a fantastic job when it comes to button locks and when it comes to affordable knives in general, but specifically their button locks, I have not had, and I've said it time and time again, and every button lock from CJRB that I've gotten since this one has just proved right that they have the best lockup in the game of button locks. And I don't care if we're talking about ProTech, WE knives, Civivi knives, Kaiser. They have all had issues when it comes to the plunge failing. I have tested and tested and tested these CJRB button locks amongst 30 to 40 other button locks, and CJRB is the only company to date that I have not had a single failure with their plunge lock. Now, that's not to be said that other people haven't experienced button lock failure with a CJRB knife, but I think and that is probably something to do with a QC issue, not so much their geometry and how they do their plunge locks. But all the ones that I have had, all the ones that I have tested, I have not had one that has failed yet, and that speaks volumes to how well they do their button locks. So this was the first one that I can remember CJRB doing. One that followed not long after was the Lago here. Now this one kind of fell in between the Feldspar and the Pyrite, which we also have right here. Now this is the original Pyrite. Now the Lago, I think, got overlooked by a lot of people because it was kind of their second introduction into the button lock world, and with some of the issues that people may or may not have had with this very first button lock, I think this one got overlooked a little bit, and I don't think it's for good reason at all. I think the Feldspar button lock was fantastic. It is fantastic. It still holds true today that this thing is just an absolute beast. It has a beautiful blade shape, very comfortable in hand. It's an ergonomic dream, and CJRB, in my opinion, knocked this out of their park for their first attempt, and I can't say that about very many other companies. ProTech did a fantastic job with the Malibu and the Mordax, but I've had two Malibus in that failed just a simple spine whack, and not that really says anything about use with the knife, but it is a testament to how that knife locks up and the geometry within the button lock. Now, it might not prove a whole lot in the sense of everyday use, but what it does prove is when a company is able to produce button locks that don't have that type of failure, but then other companies are experiencing those types of failures, you're arguing, I think, in the wrong direction. We should have button locks. Yeah, they might not be the strongest lock compared to, most locks, frame locks, liner locks, compression locks, crossbar locks. They're just not going to be as strong. And that's a given. You are using a plunge system to lock in behind the tang, and it's just not going to be as strong, especially like a back lock, triad lock, those types of locks. They just don't compare. But they weren't meant to be used as a heavy-duty, hard-use folder. These are meant to be everyday user-type knives. Get it out, use it, and put it away on, some lighter duty materials or tasks that needs tightened up a little bit. But after these two, the Pyrite came out, and you can look back on the video I did about the original Pyrite. I raved about this thing, and I have a lot of experience with a lot of button locks. I've handled almost, I bet 90% of the button locks on the market I have either had or handled. And this thing, for the $50 price point or whatever this came in at, 50, 60 bucks, it was just fantastic. And there were some people that kind of raved about this knife, but not quite to the extent that I raved about this knife. And then CJRB kind of went a little quiet between these three. They came out with these two, and then this one came out, a few months later, and then the end of the year kind of came to, a conclusion, and then 2023 started, which, over 2019 to 2022, a lot of things got slowed down, a lot of things got held back, but what CJRB ended up doing was they released the CJRB Alt, or the CJRB Warney, and this kind of took the knife community by storm, and people were raving about this knife. And I think people failed to remember that the drop point came out before this and was already fantastic. And I think it got overlooked. Now, that is the way the knife community works. Once you get one YouTuber raving, and then you get another YouTuber, and then it's kind of just a trickle effect. And that same thing can work in the negative as well. Looking at these two are not any different than this one here. Now, I'm saying as far as the button lock itself is concerned, yes, it's a different blade shape, similar handle as the original Pyrite, and it's not a whole lot different than the Feldspar. The Feldspar is quite a bit bigger, and if you asked me to choose one between these two, I would probably go with the Feldspar. It's a little bigger. I love this low drop point, and if you've ever handled a Feldspar, they are slicing, piercing beasts. And after getting this loaned into the channel, I've become a huge fan of the Lago. Got this nice sheep's foot style of blade. Now, all these CJRBs are going to be coming with RPM 9 steel, CJRB's proprietary steel. And then right at the time that these came out, the Echo series was released. Now, they did a liner lock, which is fantastic. Love this thing. They did a fantastic job on both of these knives. Now, this one is a Knife Center exclusive. You have the titanium bolster with black micarta. Now, this is not going to have contoured scales like the liner lock. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind that is. Is it a huge deal with this particular model? I don't think so. Yeah, it's a little more comfortable in hand than just completely flat scales, but not a whole lot of difference there, at least concerning this model. Now, if you ask me, this is more my speed and more my style than the Pyrite Warnie. I do love this knife, but the Echo was done, in my opinion, a lot better. The sheepsfoot blade and just the way this knife feels in hand, the Echo is a touch bigger and a touch thicker than the Pyrite series is. This is the one that I would prefer probably almost over all the button locks. It is a Ray Laconico design and just a fantastic build from CJRB. It also sports a milled tie clip, which I love CJRB's milled tie clips. They're nice and clean. They look great. They work very well. Now, they are $15 to $20 opposed to Civivi's milled clip, which also does fit on CJRB's knives. Those are about $12 or so, as of recording this video. So prices definitely can go up or down. But I would prefer this clip over this clip here. This is a Civivi branded tie clip. This is a CJRB clip, and I just think they're better all the way around. Looks better, works better. Now that's why you're paying a few bucks more, but I would take the CJRB clip. Now, right after the Pyrite Warnie and the Echo came out, came a few other knives, which we had the CJRB cord, which I do like this knife, but they really, with my experience with these, they really failed the flipper tab area, and I don't know how that quite works, but the thumb studs work fantastically. They feel very good. This feels almost like it has a true detent, but when you hit that flipper tab, it's kind of light, and I think this knife got looked over quite a bit too. It's got a nice drop point style blade, stonewashed RPM 9, and good micarta. Now, they've done a couple different green micartas, and you can tell they are manufactured from different places, or at least in a different process, because they look so different from one another. But right around the same time, the Rift came out, and I got this after the cord, and I was worried about that flipper tab again. But this one is a game changer in my opinion. I actually compared this knife to the Malibu, to the Mordax. The detent, the spring detent, and the lockup of this knife here is second to none. It has the best spring detent on any button lock I have handled. It is extremely tough and strong. If you are not paying attention, you will fail this knife. You'll slip off the fuller, or you will slip off the flipper tab. This thing has such a good opening method with that nice strong spring, and I think that's the key. Other than the geometry inside there, the plunge geometry, having a stiff, strong spring is going to be a game changer when it comes to the opening of the knife. Now, and that's one thing, and I've talked to a lot of people, and they have also told me that theirs is equally just as strong as this one. I didn't know if this was an anomaly or what, because I had never felt anything quite like this one, and it is just so well done. Love this blade shape, this nice deep wide weld fuller that works very, very good. Very comfortable in hand. You have a nice swell that goes to the tail end here. I want to put a milled clip on this at some point, but this knife got overlooked in my opinion, and that happens a lot in the knife world, and there's knives that I miss on too as well. But this is the quintessential CJRB button lock, and in my opinion, this is, if you're looking for pure button action, button lock action, right? This is going to be the one that I would tell you to look at and try. If you like the design of this knife, you like the look of the blade shape, fear not on getting this one. It is just fantastic. And then we knew it was coming at some point. They started to make some large or XL versions of their standard knives. Now you can see a massive difference in the size. Everything is upscaled, and this one is sitting pretty high on my list of CJRB button locks. They kind of stiffened up the spring. Everything is getting well tuned from CJRB. You can just tell. Not only did they start off fantastic for their first couple, but you can tell the generations of their button locks have just gotten better, 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 and better. And this one, and if this was in titanium and, S35 or something of that nature, this would be just flat out amazing. But I got this one. I wanted this one to kind of match my original one, and that they do. Now, the large pyrite is almost on the same level as the Riff and the Echo for me. I do prefer the size of the large pyrite over the Riff, over the Echo, but these are the three that I would recommend you check out if you are looking at a CJRB button lock, or you're interested in getting a button lock. Now, any one of these would be a good choice. Like I said, the way that they do the plunge and their springs inside their button locks, they just nail it every single time. And Artisan, who is their sister company or the main company, also has put a couple out. This is the Andromeda. I call this my little steak knife. This thing is like $50, $60, and this is also fantastic. If you're looking for a nice, thin, skinnier style of pokey pocket knife, this is going to be right up your alley. It kind of reminds me of a nice thin steak knife, a good poker, and it's nice and lightweight, nice thin profile. And I'm hoping that CJRB keeps up what they're doing in 2024. I expect them to start upscaling some of their models, like the Pyrite Warney is probably coming in a large model. They might do the Echo in a large model, which I wouldn't mind seeing, them add like an inch or so to the handle, maybe a little more, and an inch to the blade. That would be, in this knife, that would be awesome. I would be all over that thing. So there, in a nutshell, is all the button locks from CJRB up until this point. I probably won't pick up a mini pyrite. They're just it's going to be a little small for me, because this one was about as small as I would want to go. I couldn't see myself wanting anything any smaller, but that's just me. So there is the catalog of CJRB and one artisan knife. Hit the thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments which one is your favorite out of this group. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Hit the subscribe button down below the video if you are not subscribed to the channel, or if you've been here before and you're not subscribed, now you're back again. Hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you here. Otherwise, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.